what happens, I think, and this is my story, if I'm in a work setting and a trigger happens to an employee, I know how to process and handle that because I've been so trained to do so.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't translate at home. And that's something that I've had to be really intentional on fixing.
It's harder at home
because you allow yourself to, I can let my guard down and be my true self.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
We're really talking a lot towards men, right? That's our target audience, is entrepreneurial men. Well, entrepreneurial men are very competitive, a lot of energy, a lot of high level, like stress that we deal with, a lot of challenges that we deal with. A lot of us former athletes, we work out. So when things arises happen at home, we get emotionally charged and triggered and we let it out.
Yes.
And one thing that I've learned is our spouses, our women aren't really capable of receiving that emotion. So we have to be very cautious. It's taken me a long time to learn that lesson, and I've had to learn it the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's really important that you recognize those triggers and do everything you can. We talk about, warrior in the garden mentality a lot. That's something we're both still working on mastering. I don't know if we ever will, but we're certainly striving for that. But having that warrior in the garden mindset and not bringing that rage or that emotional triggers into the home is really important.
Yeah. Keeping in line. It's not about suppression. It's about understanding. It's about embracing. It's about controlling. It's about understanding what a trigger is, what an emotion brings up, and then realigning it to take yourself back to neutral. And it falls, and you made a good point, is emotional intelligence gets taught in a lot of corporate businesses. Yeah. If you are taught emotional intelligence as a manager, supervisor, as a CEO, and you're doing this with your employees, you don't have to go home with them.
Right.
You also aren't compromising yourself by helping them deal with their emotions. Yeah. When you go into a home setting, you're dealing not only with your spouse, your children, your family's emotion, you're dealing with your own emotion at the same time in your safe space.
That's right.
So it changes the dynamic. That's why you can have the most stable, emotionally intelligent person at work, but then when they get home, they break down. That's not just you. It happens to a lot of men. In that setting, I don't have to understand my emotions. All I have to do is deal with that employee's emotions.
In the corporate world, my solutions were always corporate policy driven. It was never about me. In my opinion, it was always, I cited a policy number.
There was a process.
Paragraph. There was a process. So I removed any and all feeling and emotion. However, there comes some pressure and stress behind that.
Yeah.
So when you go back home and you can't cite a policy or a procedure whenever you have a problem or a situation, we just react. And 100%. That's where we get into trouble.
That drives straight back into resilience building.
Yeah.
Part of a good mindset is being able to have resilience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about how you react to things when everything's good. It's not about how you react when you're stable, it's a good day, everything's running. Resilience is having the ability to tap into those mechanisms when things are not going well.
Totally.
Great example that this Navy SEAL gave. He says, he goes in and he has he's had a 12-hour day, he started his own business, he's out of the military. But when he gets home, regardless of how tired he is, he changes his energy for when he walks in, despite the fact that he wants to fall down on the ground.
Yeah.
So he's built resilience to ensure that emotional intelligence is maintained throughout his household because his emotional intelligence and his resilience filters through to not only his spouse, but his kids and everybody around him. So he wants to keep them as high as possible. It's part of purpose for men, is we need to build around and not fall into this trap. It's the Facebook effect, right? On Facebook, everything looks good. But then when you start digging down, because we're putting up this mask for everyone to see, it's about doing it on a day-to-day basis. It's about taking all the times you have in a day. If you work a hard day, how much time do you actually have with your kids, right? You've got 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
How much time a day do you actually have with physically? So think of time, right? Time you spend in the morning when they wake up. So you wake them up, get them ready for school. You have a bite to eat with them. You see how they're doing for their day. And then the next time you're going to see them is in the evening.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to run the same process. So you've got a couple of hours with your kids a day.
I would say on the high side through Friday, well, Monday through Thursday for sure, 4, maybe 5 hours on a good day, 2, maybe 3 on a bad day.
How many of those hours are you consciously with them? So when I say consciously, not just running through the purpose of, okay, put on your shirt, brush your teeth, make sure you got your lunch packed, get in the car, get out the car, pick them up. How much of that time?
We sit and eat dinner together as a family. That's a non-negotiable in our house. We always sit at the dinner table and we talk, we chat. We try not to bring our phones to the table. So my son's a really slow eater, so we get more time with him. But My girls eat pretty quickly, so we'll call that 30 minutes, maybe 45 with my son. We just talk about what's going on in their world and try to make that a safe space for them to open up with us. And then I really want to be better about this. This is something I'm truly working on, trying to be intentional with each of them and do something in playfulness with each of them when I get home. My wife and I too, like what happens with kids, they're creatures of routine with them, because it's just easier. They're close in age. They're 8, 6, and 4.
Yeah.
So bedtime routine, dinner routine, cleanup, bedtime, all blurs really fast. Yeah. We try to eat dinner by about 6:30 every night. From that point to bedtime, usually between 8 and 9 o'clock, depending on how the day goes. You're banging things out that you need to do with them each time. When we talk actual sit down quality time, maybe it's an hour.
Okay. Now we split that between 3 children, so make it 20 minutes.
My therapist suggested taking 20 minutes with your child to let them play with you.
Yes.
And let them choose what they get to do or whatever it is you want to play.
That's a good rule. That's a good way.
That way they and I found this to be very eye-opening, but basically, let's use my son. Brandon, what do you want to play tonight? Let him dictate what you do for 20 minutes and then do it with each child once a night. They get their night and that's an opportunity for me. I haven't been good at that. So it's something I need to work on, but it allows them to be in control and it gives them a level above you in a sense. What it basically tied it to is behavioral issues. A lot of times when kids have behavioral issues, it's because they're never in control.
True.
And giving them a chance to be. And I'm not a therapist, so that's a lesson he taught me.
Yeah, well, it's a great lesson. But now let's break it down. So 20 minutes for each child, 5 days a week. We won't count weekends because weekends can get super busy depending on what you're doing as a family. Yeah. So now consciously a week, you're spending on average 100 minutes with your children. These are people you live with. We don't even talk about your spouse. Just for your kid, you are spending 100 minutes a week. It sounds like a lot, but when you break it down, it's not a lot of time, right? Really not. And time goes quickly. So now in that 20 minutes a night, when you are consciously not trying to get them dressed, not trying to get them ready for the next day, being the parent that is consciously part of their lives where we're having eye-to-eye interaction. You have 20 minutes with each child on a good day. On a bad day, it might be 5. So now, do you want that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes, that 20 minutes to be a good interaction or a bad interaction? Emotional intelligence. So, how you conduct yourself in front of your child will change dramatically how they perceive you as a parent and how they perceive how they grew up with you.
Yeah.
We as children remember, right, the very smallest things as children. We remember the weirdest interactions you've had. I remember interactions as a 5-year-old with a person I've never met who took 5 minutes to play with me. Right, we were having a pool party with a family. I don't remember. There was a friend of a friend of a friend that was there, and they were throwing me up and down in the pool. It was great. I remember this person. I remember their face.
Yeah.
Right, think about that. That was 5 minutes of positive frequency, positive interaction, good emotional intelligence that carried through to a 45-year-old man.
Right.
You want to be the person your kids remember.
Yeah, a mentor of mine, he basically said that your wife is a reflection of your husbandry. Your children are a reflection of your father tree, or whatever that means. But basically, the point that you're making, I control these outcomes. If I lead and maintain control of my emotions, my mindset is very positive energy, and this is what's really resonated with me through some of the struggles we've been through in my family and marriage. Am I the person they want around or not? I mean, it's just that simple. And if you actually ask your spouse or your children and get vulnerable, don't get angry with the response, because I've dealt with a lot of anger reactions. It's not good. It's not healthy. I truly ask them, do you want to be around me?
Yep.
You might be shocked at the answer. In my case, they didn't want to be around me. Right. And that's hard to hear. So I'm working really hard to go, well, shit, I got to change something. I got to do better. I want my kids to have fun with me. I want my kids to want me to be there. I want my wife to want me to be there. And that's all emotional. We talk our pillars, that mindset, that emotional intelligence, that resilience, the resilience.
It all ties. What we tend to do as people, we try to think of the big events, right? The average Joe working a job, he plans his vacation, right? So I've got a vacation at the end of the year. It's 2 weeks. In that 2 weeks, I'm going to give my family everything that they want. We're going to go away. They can eat what they want. It's just going to be that 2 weeks, as much as you think it makes a difference, it's not going to make a slightest difference. The difference is day to day. It's the small things that you take for granted every single day that makes difference. And that falls us straight into our next sentence under mindset, which is cognitive enhancement. Now, what does that mean? It means cognitively, you need to always be working to enhance yourself, whether it be reading. Reading is great. I've always felt that there's two types of people, right? There's probably more, but for my limited understanding of the world,
still layman's life for a reason.
There we go. Right. So I've always found that you get two types of people in learning. You get the person who will read and understand or read verbatim. They're very good at memorizing portions and being able to put those filing systems in their brain. So they'll read something, they'll know what they've read and they can recite it to you like a actor can recite lines. But the truly theory of understanding what they've read and how it turns is the difference between a genius and a simple professor.
I summarize it even simpler than that, and I call that book smart versus common sense smart.
What I always found is cognitive enhancement is consistently taking information in, not just taking it in, but trying to break it down and understand what that means in your greater purpose, your universe, how you perceive yourself in the world, how you perceive others in the world, how you want to be remembered. Consistently enhance that cognitive state to try and understand your world better. It's a never-ending process. You'll never know everything. There's always new things to learn. So it's always about constantly trying to enhance. I find reading, understanding, and for a long time in my life, it was always a part of, pick up a book and read, and now I have that information. But I find as I'm progressing and trying to get more in, having the understanding of how other people perceive the same piece of information, how they see it from their perspective, their life, where they are in their life right now, the struggles they've had, the experiences they've had, and then they relay how they see the world in a certain way has been way more valuable than the actual information. It's my belief with AI as we move forward, AI gives you the answer, right? Which is good. I think that we should always try and go, but what I'm finding is if we embrace that, being able to get the answer now, I can spend more time understanding how I got or why that answer is what it is.
Right.
For anybody, when it comes to emotional intelligence, resilience, having consistently reworking your mind and then being able to sit down and go, you know what, whatever I perceive the world, the universe, my life, my spouse, my kids to be, you must always be open to new information and new understanding. Definitely. And that's consistently will enhance your cognitive state.
My take on it is the only, like the expression is, the only constant in life is change. We have to be willing to look ourselves in the mirror, be vulnerable, and be willing to change. I think that change stems from a place of a drive to evolve, a drive to want to be better. You and I both are very much this type of people. We're in the pursuit of greatness.
Yes. And when we say greatness, it's not from anyone else's perspective. It's being as an individual in your own reality, understanding that my purpose where I am in the health, the only person that must be okay with it is me.
Yeah. For me, how great can I be? I think about my wife and kids are my everything, right?
Yes.
That's my number one. That's my priority. And believe me, I fucked up for a long time, and I know that. But I have to give myself grace because I'm human, and I've dealt with the same challenges we all face: the stress of career, finances, providing them a valuable life and a better life
that experience, those experiences,
we wouldn't be here today.
You wouldn't be here. So you make a great point there, because your experience is that everything that you've led to, nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you. Every one of those difficulties has built you into the man you are today. Totally. And that is how you should see everything, right? So for cognitive enhancement is consistently looking at things and going, you know what, whatever's happened to me is an experience that drives me to be higher. It's experience that drives me to greatness.
The greatness for me is, how do I want to be remembered? I've lost some friends over the past week. Well, it's been a few weeks now, but a couple very sad, catastrophic scenarios. One was a head-on collision that was tragic accident. And then a friend of my family's, my wife's side of the family. But to me, how do I want to be remembered? When my time is up, when it's my time to leave this world, how am I going to be remembered? I think a lot of us think when we're successful in our careers, we've made lots of money, And we're leaving them our legacy of financial well-being. I don't think anybody cares about that in the end.
At least not within 2 lifetimes. You make a good point there. So I always like using Arnold Schwarzenegger as this example.
Yeah.
Okay. We grew up with him as an icon.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
So for us, and I'm not talking about someone who follows weight training or sees that. I'm talking about the real average person, right?
Everybody knows.
The average 25-year-old has no idea who he is.
Sad.
Right. And it's not really sad. It ties in. No matter how rich, no matter how famous he was at a time, he will always be in the books of history. He will always be remembered for certain things he did because he was an icon in those eras.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, no one knows who he is now. By the time our grandkids are walking around, no one will know who he was.
That's right.
And it won't matter. What will matter is who the people around him at that time. Mm-hmm. They'll be long gone. Mm-hmm. They are the ones he leaves legacy with. It's what he physically did. And I think Arnold's a good example because he's left some good legacies on multiple levels. He's got a good mindset. So he's a great example of someone is. But now, not all of us are going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No.
So you have to know that greatness for me is one day when my eyes close permanently, that last thought that goes to your head is you did everything in your life
I did my best
to be the best version of yourself.
Totally. I don't leave anything on the table.